We're talking here this morning about the dark that descended as Jesus Christ was crucified. Darkness is something we rarely experience nowadays. Where I live in East Belfast near the Knock traffic lights, there's so much street lighting that it can seem as bright as midday, even in the middle of the night. Utter darkness, the kind of darkness where you can't see your hand in front of your face, is something that we rarely experience. To be in utter darkness for a moment can be quite unsettling, but to live in utter darkness would be something that would destroy us entirely. In 1914, the Anglo-Irish explorer Ernest Shackleton and his crew took a ship to the Antarctica. They had planned to land their boat, walk to the South Pole and right through Antarctica to the other side. They had to abandon their plan whenever their ship, the Endurance, was trapped in ice and was crushed. And for the next month, Shackleton and his crew struggled just to survive and to finally make their way home. One of Shackleton's biographers describes the difficulties that they faced: freezing temperatures and starvation. Of all these difficulties that they faced, the worst was the darkness. Near the South Pole, the sun goes down in mid-May and doesn't come back up again until early July. So there's no daytime, no sunlight for more than 2 months. Polar explorers all agree that there's no desolation like that of a polar night. Only those who've experienced it can fully appreciate what it means to be without the sun day after day, week after week. It's driven some people mad. The darkness can affect you in a variety of ways. Since you can't see in front of you, you don't know where you're going, so you're going to lose all sense of direction. Since you can't see yourself and you don't know or remember what you look like, you begin to lose all sense of identity. Since you can't see around you and you don't know whether there's anyone with you, you can feel very alone. A loss of direction, identity, and a feeling of isolation, feeling alone. These, say the Arctic explorers, are some of the effects of living in the dark. The Bible talks a lot about light and dark. The Bible often refers to God as light, and occasionally it even describes him as the sun, and that's a very fitting metaphor. If you think about it, the sun is the source of all visual truth. It's by the sun that we see everything. The sun is the source of all biological life. Without the sun, nothing can live. So whenever the Bible calls God the sun, it's saying that he's the source of all life and all truth. That gives us something to think about, doesn't it? If I orbit around God, then my life is full of light and life. If I turn away from God, if I move away from him, if I orbit around something else, be it my career, a relationship, my family, if I make romantic love the center of my life, before long, I'm living in darkness. I've turned away from the truth and the light and the warmth of the sun. Just as it's possible for Arctic explorers to live in physical darkness, so it's possible for each one of us to live in spiritual darkness. The same disorientations that a person would experience in an Arctic winter, we can experience in our inner lives, in our souls. Once something becomes more important to me than God, then I can struggle with direction. I don't know where I'm going, don't even know where I should be going. I might chase after money, after career, after love and adventure, but when I get there, when I finally get these things that I think I'm looking for, inevitably I find that they're not enough. They're not big enough for my soul. They don't produce their own light. Rather than being the light at the end of the tunnel that I've been looking for, they're the tunnel that ends my light. If I chase something other than God as the center of life, I can lose my sense of identity. I start to care too much about what other people think and what they think of me. I'm under constant pressure to perform and to keep pleasing people. Before long, I don't know who I am anymore. In the dark, I've lost my sense of identity. When we're in spiritual darkness, we can end up feeling alone. I get trapped up in things that I'm living for and the things that I'm doing. It's all about me, and so I get proud and driven. I get scared or angry and full of self-pity. None of these things helps me connect with other people. The longer I'm in the dark, the more I feel alone. Loss of direction, loss of identity, feeling alone. These, say the Arctic explorers, are some of the effects of living in the dark. They're also some of the effects of living a life without God. Friends, we've been thinking today about Jesus' crucifixion. We've been thinking about why it happened in the dark. It happened in the dark because God was acting in judgment. This is why Jesus came, to experience your every darkness, to go into the darkness for you, and to bring you back into the light. Friends, however far from God you have lived, are living today, or might stumble in the future, know this: He's gone into the blackest darkness, where your worst life is headed. He's died the death that you should have died, and He's saved you from God's righteous anger, His judgment. And He's done all this to bring you back into the light. Where do you find yourself this Easter season? Lost in the dark, without any direction, having lost all sense of identity, feeling alone? Come back. Come back to Jesus. Come and find your life in Him. He'll restore your sense of yourself. He'll give you the direction that you're lacking in your life, and He'll never leave you alone. He is the light of the world.